And I'm not just talking about a Bill Cosby type assessment, which to me was a vain, crude, and asinine attempt to wake up black people by spouting inane, simplistic rhetoric about what the poor and disenfranchised of our black societies are doing, bellowing like a frustrated old codger without so much as a peep about the real and truly insidious reasons behind the tragic collapse of black intellectual, cultural, sociological, and economic genius. Cosby doth protest too much about the openly obvious, which any black individual with half a functioning brain cell could do, which is why he is so unanimously supported by simplistic racist media figures all over white America, and by the simplistic monofocal Christianized Negro who are so entrenched in their church dogma that their intellectual capacity for analyzing this problem through a positive, unconditioned exercise of critical thinking has been so severely crippled by their blind beliefs that any action arising from them is automatically rendered useless or of no viable consequence. No, beloved brothers and sisters, today I do not intend to disrespect your higher intelligence with boule rhetoric or oversimplistic religified diatribe. What I am going to do is to agitate your critical thinking matrix, to disturb your sense of certainty about what you think you know to be the truth. I make this solemn promise that if you pay me your attention over these next few precious hours, you will receive from us enormous intellectual dividends that will definitely enrich your now depleted repository of truth and knowledge. I know I'm blowing off, but I got to put it down like this. I'm a talking book. I hope there are teachers in the house today. Oh, great. I feel that maybe sometimes that I haven't done enough. The present collective of black code breakers have not yet been accepted by the larger society, which has disconnected us from the cultural continuum that has been the legacy handed down by our ancestors. We failed to see that over the past 20 years, more and more of the social, spiritual, and psychological identities that our former great leaders helped us to discover from within ourselves have all been carelessly and negligently discarded by us, the elders, and thus subsequently given away by our children to those who now use our hard-earned gifts of self-discovery and self-identity to pimp us of our vast creative resources, leaving us with nothing to show for it in return but the likes of a moronic figurehead like Snoop Doggy Pimp Dog. But those who are still awake and somewhat conscious can look around and see that compared to the creative genius and excellence of black masters from Duke to Bird, to Miles, to Jimi Hendrix, to Gil Scott, to James Brown, to Earth, Wind, and Fire, we have literally sunk to an abysmal low in black expressive creative culture, where our children in present-day black music and entertainment blindly continue to promote and legitimize their own slavery as just another clothing style. Brothers and sisters, our children now proudly wear the chains of their own oppression in the form of the words etched in bling or sewn onto their clothing like cattle tags, slave semantics introduced through the medium of movies and music, ignorantly worn with pride and a twisted sense of accomplishment by our clueless children. Slave semantics stamped onto and promoted state property. Oh, baby. Now, I didn't think I could become any more disgusted or disappointed at what certain so-called elite members of the rap community had done to the legacy of black music culture, to the image of our young sisters and black women in general, to the image of our young brothers as criminals and pimps, handkerchief-haired minstrel niggers with studded cups making some kind of bank, they call it, propagating the white man's worst stereotypes of us. And to see us now willingly support our children's styling and profiling with clothing tagged with the word state property, I was crushed. I felt that I hadn't accomplished a damn thing over the last 25 years of teaching my young brothers and sisters. Seeing the advertisement for state property on the side of the bus last November so enraged me that I felt compelled that I had to come out of my semi-retirement to say something. Which brings me to the I told you so section. I am so disappointed at the rap community. I am extremely disappointed. As an elder, I'm saddened and I'm disappointed at the kind of stupid trash and the degrading way that our sisters and our brothers promote the culture. Now, the problem that I have here was not with the car. It's what they did to the car. And how they are using our sisters, because you're not selling the car in this picture. You're selling a statement. You're selling an idea of what our sisters are about. You want to, quote unquote, pimp out your car, that's fine. But then what they're telling you is, this is what our black women are about once you do pimp it out. And the problem is, I told you this in the I told you so section the last time. And I remember when he first came out. When he first came out, I remember that I believe I was either doing something with the Code Breakers, or I did something over with Sarnetta, but I told you all about Eminem. I told you that he was government. I told you that Dre was government. I told you that all those Negroes who came out of NWA was government. You don't come out into the public talking about killing police and then become superstars. If they knew you were real. The idea is that they seeded a culture of resistance so that they could undermine it later on with the Elvis Presley protocol. And that's exactly what they did. Now, when he first came out, we told you who he was. And I told you he would begin to erode the so-called rap culture and then monopolize it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have here, because of good brother Jay, an interview with Benzino, who is the co-owner with the white boy, Source Magazine. Check. Now, Source got something going on with Eminem, so then you know when they start to fighting, dirt starts to fly. And as the dirt starts to fly, you'll start to find out about what you didn't know. So I got, just a minute, y'all don't mind, do you? I want you to hear, in the I told you so section, what I've been telling you for so long. This is the interview in Hot 97.
Hot 97, we're talking to Dave Mays, co-owner of The Source.
Dave Mays first.
How is the magazine still staying afloat with, like, basically Jimmy Iovine and Interscope pulling all his ads? And I know you said Russell Simmons pulling his ads, you know, and so many people pulling their ads because there's such a beast over there at Interscope right now. I mean, how is The Source staying afloat?
Well, I mean, thankfully, you know, hip-hop is a huge industry now, and you have all kinds of companies that several years ago would never have targeted targeted the hip-hop market that are, you know, car advertising. You look at the Source, 3 years ago we didn't have a page of car advertising. Now it's our biggest category.
I took that from Source.
So there's a lot of companies out that aren't part of this silly politics of the industry and just want to reach the people. The Source is the #1 selling music magazine in America. We outsell Rolling Stone, Spin, Vibe, every one of our competitors 2-1 on the newsstands. We reach 8 million readers.
Did you hear that? Listen carefully to how they have undermined your children, and they have taken over black expressive evolutionary consciousness and culture. Listen.
I mean, we all know what kind of dollars we spend as consumers buying a lot of these products, so it's an incredible way for companies to reach the audience. So most people are still supporting and advertising the magazine. It's only those that have been influenced by the politics behind this issue that have pulled out.
Now, before the brother could put the tape in to get the interview, which made him want to jump up and get it, but he missed it, Dave Mays said on the interview, yeah, they took your culture. He stole hip-hop. He said just like jazz, just like rock and roll, and just like everything else, they took it. That's what made him jump up to want to take this straight, but he missed it. But he got some pretty juicy stuff later on.
Yeah, Dave, one thing that you're kind of positioning this whole lawsuit battle as is like David and Goliath, and I guess, you know, Eminem is the big star, and then he's kind of coming at you guys, and you guys are defending journalistic integrity. But one of the major criticisms of the Source is that they have, you know, put aside journalistic integrity in the interest of their ongoing battles, like whether it is against Eminem or whether it is against, you know, even in taking side with Michael Jackson. So what do you have to say about that? Like, you guys kind of came to the defense of Michael Jackson, and then he is now, you know, it's in the paper all over the place that, you know, there's all these reports about him, you know, masturbating kids and all these other things. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, we never, I mean, as far as Michael Jackson goes, I mean, we made some comments that we support him and that we didn't feel that it was appropriate for that video to be made when he was on trial. I mean, that's the main issue with the Michael Jackson thing. If he isn't up for trial, if his life isn't on the line, you know, it's a different situation. He's been made fun of millions of times by everybody. But when you're facing trial for your life, you know, and the biggest artist in the world goes out there and basically convicts you in public.
The biggest artist in the world. Let me say that again. Remember what happened when he got the Academy Award. What did I tell you that was for? He got an Academy Award and all these Grammys. I told him the only thing left was for him to do Broadway. How do you give this cracker an Academy Award for playing inside of black culture? That's what he got it for, 8 Miles, right? A movie about hip-hop and rapping. How did he do that? Why was it done?
His music video, now that has the potential to taint the jury. I mean, this is this man's life we're talking about. And everybody in this country, Michael Jackson, whoever is, should get a fair trial. So that's really, again, you know, what that issue is about. And as far as everything else goes, I mean, the issues of calling the Source's integrity into question was a tactic that Interscope put out there to try to make it seem like, you know, this was something we were doing to try to, you know, because Benzino he was mad at Eminem, and it was just a personal situation. But clearly, as time has gone on, people have seen that this is about the state of hip-hop, the state of the industry. I mean, look what's going on with the sales out there. You know, artists aren't selling records anymore. All great labels over the past 5 or 10 years are being destroyed. I mean, you know, most of the major hip-hop record companies are gone.
As soon as this white boy got in, remember we told you, what was the name of that group, the rap group that came out of, the hip-hop group came out of Queens? Brother got shot. Run DMC. What happened right after they did that video with those white boys? You never heard from him again. He became a minister. He went right out of the business as soon as he did a crossover.
Being bought out, people don't have jobs no more. I mean, this is what Benzino was saying 2.5 years ago and predicting all this was going to happen.
No, Benzino didn't predict it. The underground was predicting this. And it's a shame that we could not reach the young brothers from the hip-hop community who were going in there. But check the excuses.
And people were like, nah, he's just mad at Eminem, and they bought into that. And then, you know, Interscope just hyped it up and said, okay, well, the source doesn't have integrity. They're just using the magazine to beat up on Eminem because Benzino's mad. But now, you know, the facts are coming out.
Dave Mays is Hot 97. He's co-owner of the source, talking about his trial with Eminem. And Todd, got a question?
So let me just go straight to the point. The Source magazine, Dave Mays and Benzino, you actually feel that Eminem is a racist, flat out racist?
I couldn't say that because I don't know this guy. Like, you know, all I can go by is, you know, his actions that I observe and, you know, the songs that he made. Now, those songs were made 10 years ago. He was about 21, 22 years old when he made the songs. He wasn't 16. You know, at the time he made those records, when you hear all the lyrics, he's calling black people porch monkeys and spear chuckers and, you know, all the N-word he used. To me, he was definitely a racist at the time.
He's a racist.
At the time he made those records. Now, could he have changed? I believe he could. I don't know.
I don't believe so.
Well,
from Mississippi, I ain't never seen a racist reform. So if he was using all those terms at that time, then I might have to ride with y'all that he is a racist.
Now, I would talk to the young brothers and sisters in the streets about Eminem. Oh, he got some nice lyrics. Oh, he got some nice groove. Or he got some nice, what do you call the background music that y'all cut? Nice beats or nice tracks. And what? Where is the political awareness of the young brothers and sisters? Hip-hop's all over the world. I said, fool, understand that if hip-hop's going all over the world, they're taking it from you. That the reason they're using hip-hop because they don't have any public, no kind of popular or grassroots cultural material that appeals to everyone the way black people's music do around the world. And you don't understand that when black people, especially black males, become creative, especially musically, the world listens automatically. So they had to gain control of something that they knew, because if Eminem didn't come up, a black icon like they took out, and his name was Tupac, would have taken over. With all his madness, we could have brought him in. Him and Biggie, who said that the two of them were supposed to be secretly hooking up the East and the West Coast so that they would have their own black distributorship for the monies coming out and the talent coming out. The same way they got rid of Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson, the three MJs. When they wanted to come together to start a football league, a basketball league, a lawyers consortium to handle all the talent coming out of the black community, every one of them, like dominoes, began falling in the media. So with Eminem...
Well, another interesting thing, though, that you said is that there was no girlfriend, black girlfriend, as he claimed. How did you guys find that out?
We did a lot of research before we came out. We hired a private investigator and investigative reporters. We sent people out to Detroit. We interviewed people from his schools and his friends, and we got a lot of them on record. And there was nobody that knew this guy ever knew him to have a black girlfriend when he was 16. He had a white rap group. It was 4 white boys called Basement Productions. That was their rap clique, and they went in. They made the racist rap hour. Wow. That was one of their big recordings, and made all these songs, and that was how their whole thing got started.
Now, how did this cracker skinhead end up in black music unless he was government? Now, another thing, the brothers and sisters, and I'm not using expletives. today. And you know this is the kind of material that would get me into that mode, check? But you see, I want this particular video to go PG. Because I want the teachers to not get caught up in the language and get the substance. What we're about to reveal to you today, and I hope you got the patience. Y'all with us for the duration? Y'all going to be here after the break, because I know y'all just be up and out of the break after that. All right, because this whole day is dedicated specifically, and I don't lecture no more. That's why I say only because of these beloved brothers I come out. Today, we got something for you that is going to blow your mind. I'm just building it up. And I'm glad you're here, because this is going to be an experience that the tape is not going to give to you. Okay? This man was government to begin with. We said so, and it's coming out. The proof is in it, the pudding. Now, listen carefully, because Benzino now comes in.
Okay, one thing though. Okay, in the source and in all magazines that cover rap, we talk about artists that are drug dealers, artists that are women beaters, artists who have done a various different things. So what is the difference? Why are they allowed to have a career and yet a racist rapper shouldn't have a career?
Because this is a predominant, I'll answer that one.
Thank you, Doc.
Because this is a predominantly black industry that we live, feed, and eat off of, especially you, Info, and especially you, Envy. So if it's a racist white rapper, he shouldn't be able to make no damn money. That's what it is.
But a drug dealer should. But a drug dealer,
you know what? I don't believe in the drug dealers either, or murderer. You know what? But you sit here every day, and you stroke these dudes, murderers, drug dealers, you kiss their ass. So I think Eminem should get the same damn people. Hey, Dave, push on, brother.
Thank you, Doc.
Dave, we appreciate your call.
Now, he got it with that. You sit there all the time in your interviews with them, stroke them, and like she said, kiss their asses. Knowing that they are murderers, drug pushers, wife beaters, whatever.
I appreciate you having me.
Magazine, and we'll hope to see you in better things next year. And
I'm sorry, I just gotta say this. It would probably even, and I know this will be a scary approach, but he'd probably come off better and sell even more units if he would come face to face and be honest and expose his racism.
Now, this is the conciliatory, feminist, we want to accept, and all this. This is the problem with the female psyche. She wants to accept everything. She wants to love everybody. You can't love this beast. He is your sworn enemy. He does not want to be ruled by you. And everything you do when you open your mouth, when you place your mind on something to build it and make it, you do it greater than he does. He knows that. And every time he enters in here, it is to find ways to weaken you. So the feminine principle about, well, maybe if he just admitted he was a racist, he may sell more units. No! If I admitted to a cracker skinhead that you are a sick, psychological, insane maniac, and I want you to accept me. This is where the feminine feeling for whatever got to step back. Cold discretion and understanding who the enemy is. To heck with all of that. We don't want you to sell more because, you know what she said? Maybe he'll sell more units if he says he's a racist. Did Malcolm become more accepted? Did Brother Khalid become more accepted? Because he pointed out their racism.
Of the now or of the past? Because I'm sure his sentiments reflect that of a lot of his fans.
Right.
He could go even further. Like
the same way that he did with his homophobia and with
Exactly.
This is the part when Benzino comes into
That's me.
the interview.
But because you want to still appeal to the black kids, you don't want to go that far and expose that much about yourself. But if it's there, like, just...
He didn't have to expose himself. Look at what happens to hip-hop with all of our powerful teachers. Will somebody please tell me what in the hell is wrong with Flavor Flav? The crackhead just asked this woman if she would have his baby on national television. I know that Chuck must be turning, he must got continual diarrhea. Well, he might, you know, I can't say that because, you know, there's been too much stroking going on. And it's funny how Benzino comes in at this point.
They're real calculated at like what they do up there, and believe me, like I said,
Benzino.
You know, once we drop this other thing about Jimmy Iovine, I want to see what the whole music world and like what the industry is going to be saying. And because a part of the problem is the industry. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of these guys out here who just are really scared of everything over there, scared to say anything.
Right, because they never know when they're going to need an Eminem feature on their records, or when they're going to need Jimmy Iovine, the Greenlighter Project, or when they might... Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting the amount of influence Interscope has because they basically scare people into playing or not playing whatever they want to hear or whatever they don't want to hear.
Yeah, but then you know what? You can't even completely blame Interscope or these artists that turn the other cheek because at the end of the day, they have bills to pay, and that's how the game, that's how the game...
Now you see the mentality? I got bills to pay. No revolutionary mindset, no integrity. And you know, after 25 years, I thought that something was being done. Nothing, it seems. We ain't going nowhere. It feels like I'm trying to go up or down escalator. You have to run hard, and then you get to about midway, and then...
Jonesy don't put their messing it up for everybody else.
People don't care about nobody else. People do not care about the next man.
Not at all.
People do not care about...
Now, instead of her saying that people should care, she propagates the sickness by telling people, well, that's not what it is. We don't care, so let's keep going anyway.
Man, especially, unfortunately, black people, they trying to get their family taken care of, and they trying to make their name a household name. They're not trying to make history or make it better for the next...
Do you hear that? Is that sad? But did I tell you that that's exactly what hip-hop would do with all the money? That because hip-hop does not have any guidance, it's going to come back and it's going to destroy the community. I told you that. The hip-hop and the rap separated. Because true hip-hop and rap are not the same.
Hold on, you ain't got to go nowhere, right?
Nah, I'm good.
All right. Benzino is on the line with us, and if you'd like to speak to him or you got questions, because I'm sure y'all do, now's your opportunity to get that off. 1-800-223-9797. It's Miss Jones in the morning on Hot 97. What is it? The alleged showdown. A showdown last night at a Detroit radio station between Dave Mays and Eminem. Did Eminem actually spit on Dave Mays like he's claiming?
I don't know if he spit on Dave. I know he went up there and talked a lot of ish, but my thing is, this cracker would have never went up there if I was up there. And my thing is, if he got money and I got money, let's go fly 10 people out to the Grand Canyon, or like maybe me and him would just fly out there. Like, he's such a coward, he would have never told that ish if I was up there. And he was up there by himself. So it's not like Dave was so scared to go to Detroit.
Right. And he was probably thinking that as a businessman, okay, I have business to handle, let me just go handle my business, not thinking that Eminem would be so coward as to use that as an opportunity to appear gangster.
And then go up there and say, if it wasn't for the cameras, I would do this and do that. Man, if you want to do something, you're going to do it. Getting ready to get on the plane 9 in the morning. First flight out, I was there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't call me until like I was in Puerto Rico at the time.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? So
well, thank God the jock didn't try and feed into the beast and tried to at least let things cool off.
I mean, you know what's over this? Like Dave's there by himself against 10 dudes. So what really can Dave do? Dave held his ground though. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like proud of my man. You know what I'm saying? Because Dave ain't no coward, man. Dave done been around me and Dave done been around enough real ish. You know what I'm saying? Not to get all nervous when things happen. So you know what I'm saying?
And nor does he proclaim to be a gangster of any sort. He's a businessman. That's what you know about.
Dave Mays went to graduated from Harvard, handles business every day.
Right.
He's right around here and talk.
We got somebody running a rap magazine graduated from Harvard. Smart man, right? Everybody know where the money is when black folks around, except black folks.
Met somebody who wants to beef with people.
No.
You know, if it's going to be that, then let that be his other half. Let that be me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Now, Interscope Records and Jimmy Iovine seemingly using his financial wherewithal to possibly, well, he supposedly put money behind your competing magazine. And are you afraid at all with this trial that they will try and financially drain you and shut the Source magazine down?
We're good. Dave's good. Source magazine is good. We don't got the advertisement of Jimmy Iovine and his #1 coon, Russell Simmons.
Is that #1 coon?
Coon. We told you. Do you want to know what happened to black culture? What is wrong with us today? Now, if he was to walk in the hood 10, 20 years ago with that, what are you doing in here with that? Look like a hairy rat with a coat. He put a coat on his dog. The dog this big, about the size of a shoe. And he walking around with it. That is the new hip-hop. This is your hip-hop hero. You have no more culture. You have been absorbed. Listen to what he says about the #1 coon, Russell Simmons.
You know what I'm saying? We don't got the...
Wow.
We don't got the advertisement.
Did you just call him a coon?
I need a sound effect, folks. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, you know?
Why do you call him that? Why?
I mean, because he is. Because on every station he's sticking up for Eminem and trailer parks across the country. What does this guy know about that? He needs to worry about what's going on in Queens where he grew up and try to help some people over there. You know what I'm saying? While his wife is talking about gold toilet bowls.
Now, you know his wife got some kind of style program where all she talk about is toilet bowls and how we could make you over and the most superficial crap. And everything is makeover. This is the result of what I have said is the feminization of our society. We are worried about making over constantly. Queer people are bum rushing hard-working men to put makeup on them.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't think that
Russell Simmons does a lot through his hip-hop action network.
Man, Russell Simmons is a clown, man, and everybody knows it.
Did we have to wait for him to hear this? No, because we told you he was a clown.
Okay, Russell Simmons stuck up for Jimmy in Eminem because of a money thing. It's all about a money thing, you know? It's all about the best interest of money thing. Now, mind you, okay, the vote's over, Bush is in, you're not going to hear too much more from Russell. Like, you don't hear too much more. Like, the whole thing is over with, really.
Right.
You don't hear too much from him no more.
And let me just say this, in fairness, Russell, if you would like to call the show, of course, you know, we'll give you the opportunity to say what's on your mind. Just have to put that out there. But
Russell will call up.
yeah, please.
If he call, ain't nobody gonna get to talk.
Because Russell can talk.
We be here till tomorrow.
Man, Russell, see, you know what Russell is to corporate America? They believe Russell is the pulse of hip-hop, corporate America.
Because they don't.
He is what is called a what? A hip-hop mogul.
know better.
You see, exactly. But as long as Russell can, you know what I'm saying, say the stuff that he says and go to the Hamptons and, you know, look like he's, you know what I'm saying, go like Fashion Week, Mr. Fashion Week, but it's not really, he doesn't represent us. He doesn't represent the struggle. He doesn't represent the music. And it's really sad that Russell has him turned to this because at one point, Russell Simmons did mean something.
Right.
Now it's just all about paper. It's all about money for these people.
Isn't it inevitable, though, that it all comes down to that?
Nah, not for me it don't. Not for David don't. You see, so that's why I really can't believe it does. You know, it doesn't to me. It's about the future of our music. It's about the future of our culture.
Really? Is there a light peeking through?
And, you know, the stuff we do today are going to end up coming back to haunt us tomorrow.
Told you that 10 years ago. Maybe it takes time. A minute or two, because, you know, in the underground, we like 5 years ahead of everybody.
Trust me.
Are you even the slightest bit concerned that with Busta, who signed to Dre, and Dre, who signed to Interscope, and Eve, who signed to Dre, and G-Unit, and 50, all that affiliation?
So Busta's gone. Eve, well, she was gone when she began. The G-Unit. All of these people are now gravitating like moths to a flame into Interscope. Now listen to what Benzino says about that gravitation of black talent to Interscope and about your boy, the one I told you how much hip-hop went for on the open market. What was that? 50 Cent. Now every time you see, say when he's on the red carpet going into some kind of function, what would his fans shout to him to get his attention? $50. What that sound like? Action! That's how much hip-hop was worth on the open market to these crackers. And remember I told you they bought and sold you for 50 cents. And as soon as this white boy came out, I knew hip-hop was gone, period. Because Elvis Presley had come back on the scene.
I don't even want to cut you off, but remember, like Mary went over to Aftermath and she hasn't been doing so well, so it's not like everybody going over to that one spot is going to do good, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
right.
That whole sound is going to start getting tired. Even your man Boo Boo had to push his album back, great Boo Boo had to push his album back.
Who's that?
50.
Boo Boo.
He got to push his album back from St. Valentine's Day to like March something now, so, you know.
I'm out the loop on the Boo Boo thing. Could somebody get me up to speed, please?
No, it was just funny.
I knew his nickname back in Queens, Boo Boo.
somebody named Boo Boo. Yogi Bear. Now you know, if he came out with a name like that in the hip-hop community, so his name is Boo Boo. Now y'all got something that y'all can spread around in the community. Kind of take him down a notch on the thug list, doesn't it?
Oh my God. This goes in the morning where nicknames get exposed. I was going to ask you if you were even the slightest bit concerned that if you don't have these artists like that supporting your magazine, that eventually that's going to turn people off.
I mean, eventually all these artists are running over. They're going to find out that they're not going to really be able to eat because everybody's going to be in one kitchen. When you got everybody in one kitchen, how can everybody eat? Everybody's bumping into each other. Right. Some people are taking all the chicken. Some people took all the rice. It's not going to work like that.
Now, the reason why I took this time and kind of saturated this moment with what I had to say is because I need a little time to get the I told you so over. If you heard it from me, but if you hear it from the broader society, that it's all crumbling, it's coming down. Now what you going to do about it? They snatched hip-hop. Just like they snatched R&B, they snatched everything that we have done strategically. It's tactical to undermine who you are. They took so-called jazz at the level of Grover Washington and Stanley Turrentine, who have just elevated jazz to a whole kind of rhythm and blues jazz feel. And we remember Mr. Magic. That was the first so-called smooth jazz. And as soon as that happened, they exported that over to Europe, and all the Europeans began doing smooth jazz, and then they exported it back, because Gary Bird told me while I was riding in the car, he said, man, you got to check this new station out called CD 101.9. And everybody playing was getting down like Grover Washington, but we're white. So now what we're saying to you, beloved brothers and sisters, who do have a chance to listen to this tape, because it's going to get deeper, you now have to understand, overstand, and understand that your culture is your prize. Your music is what sets you free and everyone else. If you did not estrange yourself by being caught up in the games, dealing with visuals that don't do anything for us as a people, showing that you have been colonized. Now, a man sitting up there with a name like Ludacris, doing something as stupid as this to show that he has money, when people are hungry, is ludicrous. And it ain't like you're looking at a man that is trying to say something and then clown like Funkadelic and George Clinton, because when George Clinton clowned, he put the serious information inside of it. He would be the court jester whose job it was to criticize the king and get away with it right in front of the king. Because if you said, anyone else said what the jester would say to the king, off with his head. So the court jester now has been lost. One of our most powerful mouthpieces to the king has become now a joke. It ain't like we get this ludicrous to them is what we are. And when this fool is burning a Benjamin Franklin to show me he got money, it shows me he ain't got no sense. He may have dollars, but he ain't got no sense. Oh, disturbing the peace. What peace? What peace? Another very ill and sick part of this whole deal is the fact that the rap community has taken hundreds and thousands of dollars of the money that they earned off our children to give back to the cracker so that they could make this stupid bling. Now, another thing the rap community has not shown me is that they learn anything about their culture. They keep pushing the slave symbol. Juvenile, Ludacris, 50, Boo Boo. All of it shows that we are now becoming culturally retarded. But it's funny because Bushwick Bill may have said something by just wearing the words. And you know they're busting up for a moment. But I think this says it all. Now you may say, no man. And the young people are going to get upset because this is our culture. We as elder people supposed to be arguing with y'all. We're supposed to be mad at y'all, and you all are supposed to make us pissed off with you. Why? Everything you're using in your hip-hop records belongs to us. We gave you the music that started you off. That still makes you go. And they changed the laws of music so that you could do that and not pay us. What I'm doing, brothers and sisters, is showing you in this lecture that we are all secretly wearing chattel tags of slavery, from the labels on our clothing to the RFID chips threaded in them to the social security card and driver's license we all carry. I want to show you how the so-called education system is actually a corporate hatchery of the state to incubate the minds of our children in preparation for them to take their places in the new economic slave pits of American society. It is to save the 7 generations that follow that we must decode the mechanisms of this new renovated slave system. We must decode the slave speak, state property that has infested our matter-of-fact reality, because words are the primary tools or weapons used by the parasite to manipulate our reference points of right and wrong. Brothers and sisters, Steve Biko once said, the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So before we dissect the topics concerning the metaphysics of lockdown in the 21st century and the miseducation system, the Hegelian dialectic and the Prussian system, the Delphi Protocol, let us do a quick overview of the present circumstances that face us as parents and our children in the future. Let us do a did you know. Now, brothers and sisters, in what we are about to cover over the education system, we'll tell you why it is that the IQ of America has sharply fallen by at least 10 to 20 points. They have done such work on mind control that it's now at a level of sophistication where you think the matter-of-fact reality your children are going through is what you went through. But today you will find out that that is not the case. One of the brothers, one of the people who came out, one of the ones who flew over the cuckoo nest in the mind control scenario from at least 10 years ago, is sitting in this audience today. I've mentioned him many, many times to you. His name is Brian Wrong, and he's sitting right there in the back. I want you to give him some props. At this time, we don't know whether or not they're listening into this conversation. But this is the brother that got wired up. This is the brother that had the chip and everything taken and put in the back of his throat so they could read his thoughts. This is the brother that we had come to our temple back in Brooklyn when we broke it with the city sun. And we told that they are now implanting brothers and sisters and children with microchips. And they are monitoring us with microchips in our community. And they're about to do it again, this time with more sophisticated kinds that are being put into the foods, different kinds of undigestible materials that cling to the side of the walls, different ways for you to breathe in, certain types of filaments that light up and are tracked by certain instruments inside of the patrol cars today. Did you know that the federal government provides states with grant money to implement education reforms that are only good for 2 years? Then after the grant money is gone, taxpayers are responsible to continue the programs to teach the children? This is why school budgets increase every year. The federal state mandates pile up and no relief is in sight. Did you know that after 10 years of federal control, intrusive involvement in public education, federal leaders and educators claim that they cannot be blamed for failed schools because federal dollars account for a small percentage of the school budgets? They claim the lack of teachers, low salaries, school construction, classroom size, quality, textbooks, and transportation issues is a direct result of school mismanagement when it is not. Some of the schools receive such a small amount of federal dollars, it is almost impossible to convince citizens the truth. Besides, most people in the issues propaganda produced by labor unions, special interest groups, and self-serving politicians. Did you know that schools receive additional funding, listen carefully, for every student who receives free and reduced meals or something called farms? Schools with 51% of its students on farms is considered a Title I school. This develops a poverty school that the government feels it must control because parents do not manage their children. The government considers these parents lazy. The government does not intend to adequately educate children who attend these kinds of schools. Think about it. If parents do not have a college education, a decent job, or promotes morals, values, and principles to their children, why should the government fund education plans that enhance their lifestyle? The government is not going to spend any more than it has on its students who live in poverty. These students will be service workers. They are being trained to be the underclass within society. And the student will learn to love their servitude by the 5th grade. Did you know the schools make it easy for schools to become Title I? They send home free and reduced meals applications at the beginning of school where parents fill it out and send it back, and that's it. No income check, nothing, no thing. If 51% of the lazy parents complete the free and reduced application, the school automatically becomes Title I and receives government funding for non-academic programs because poverty equals dysfunctionality and immoral lifestyles according to them. Non-Title I schools are punished until they give up and give in. Did you know that our president called for the removal of the local school boards from your local control for your schools? Know why? The state superintendent of schools is the sole enforcer of the federal education mandates. Parents, elected school boards, and community organizations' involvement is limited to assuring that the federal programs are implemented. Threat to discontinue federal funding is what keeps everybody in check. Did you know that in 3 years, children that graduate from parochial, private, and home schools will be unemployable? Why? Because employers are forced by federal workforce laws and other constraints to hire only students who graduate from schools who taught so-called workforce skills, issuing the workforce development, SCANs, S-C-A-N-S, resumes, and certificates of initial mastery. These will be, brothers and sisters, what it is that you will be receiving. We're going to get into this and get very deep into why it is children are becoming dysfunctional. Did you know that 99% of our children are not being prepared to go to college? They are going to be assigned jobs by the federal workforce investment boards. Check that out. Did you know that employers are reorganizing to match their job requisitions, job skills assessment, and work proficiencies with the skills assessment and proficiencies that our children receive in the school? This includes lowering salaries, developing processes so that an incoming student who graduated from high school can perform at an entry-level position without the need to master reading. Wonder why our employers are working so hard these days? They have until July 1st, 2000, this is the part, to complete the implementation of the new hiring practice and federal laws, so that as of 2000, the whole United States workforce, corporate workforce, employers have now changed how an entry-level person is to come in to receive a job. They only have certain skills to prepare them for factory-like working. No thinking is involved, therefore no critical thinking was taught in the schools. No problem solving, and we're going to get into that. Did you know that the letter A and B letter grade students bring home on school assignments that convince parents that they are doing well in subjects such as English, math, science, health, and language arts? Parents see an A on a reading assignment, and they don't feel that they need to help their children or to research their assignments because the A indicates a good grade. The truth is, the A means, listen carefully, that their child, is graded on the grade level that the child is actually working on. Example, the child reads at a 3rd grade level, but is actually in the 5th grade. However, because the child reads at a 3rd grade level, they can receive an A for reading on the highest level of the 3rd grade. The child is in 5th grade. Did you hear what I just said? The child reads at a 3rd grade level. Now, because the child has mastered the 3rd grade level, the child in 5th grade will get an A, and the parent would think that the child reading at the 5th grade level would have gotten an A for reading on the 5th grade level. But the grading today is not based on that. Wherever the child is reading on, if it's the 1st grade level, and the child is in 10th grade, if they master the 1st grade level after they have been assessed, they'll get an A for reading on the 1st grade level. I want you so pissed off when you leave here today. Did you know that you have now, your children are called human resources? Do you know that you have been called human resources from the beginning? All right, because Sister Myra is going to drop some stuff on you when the time comes. Did you know that children with special education needs will be placed in the same classroom with children who excel in learning without learning disabilities? Why? To cut down cost. Equity. This is what is meant by all children can learn. All children can learn because the teacher is required to teach at the pace of the lowest learner. Imagine what that does to a child who is starved academically. When the so-called normal child becomes disruptive, he or she is targeted as hyper, and the children will then be given drugs. So all of your hyper children in school essentially are the intelligent ones. Lastly, did you know that America receives the lion's share of Nobel Prize winnings and not one of these children are from the United States? Did you know that most prestigious universities educate people from other countries? Did you know that America uses this information as bragging rights when in reality these students receive grants from our government to be educated in the United States? Now, after hearing all that has been said so far and has been revealed, a question must stand uppermost in the mind of sane people. How did we allow this to take place? What has happened to responsibility, reason, critical thought, and the functions of logic and analysis that our leaders and teachers are supposed to impart to us and our children for our security and our upliftment? What has happened to the intellectual capacity and collective IQ of our people that we did not see this coming to pass? The undermining and eroding of the collective consciousness of our black family structures,